Hello, this is Dr. Mirza Wasim. Now let us move further on the discussion of constructors. In the previous lectures, we have already discussed the method 1. That is, the method 1 was declaring and defining the constructors within the class. Now we will move to the method number 2. That is, we will declare the constructor in the class, but we will define constructor outside the class. This principle of defining and defining the constructor of the class or any member function of the class is one of the basic principles of OOPS. In OOPS, we have to in the concept of OOPS, we have to separate the detailed implementation from class definition. Therefore, it is a good practice to define the member function outside the class. So we will move to the second method, that is, we will define or declare the constructor within the class, but we will define it outside the class. Here it's a syntax. Here the syntax is here class, that's a keyword, then class name of the class, then specifying the access specifiers and name of the class. Here we only declare the constructor that has the same name as that of the class. Then we define or give the definition of a constructor of the outside the class using scope resolution operator. Here we see class name, scope resolution operator, class name. There is no return type here. And then the definition of a constructor. Let's make it clear by example. Here we define a class named student, specifying the access specifiers, and here we are declaring a constructor, or we call it default constructor, with the name student. Then the definition of this constructor is given outside the class using scope resolution operator. That is definition. The output here is the definition of this constructor has been defined outside the class. Then we specify the main part. Then here we specify the object of type student. Let's make it clear. This is a code part. We are specifying the header files iostream conio. Then we are here specifying the name of student. And the student here is a class. Permissions, access specifiers. Student here is a declaration of a student, that is a constructor, or we call it default constructor. Then the definition is specified here. Student, scope resolution operator, student. And the output is definition of constructor has been defined outside the class. Here we specify the main part, and here we specify the default constructor, which is called automatically whenever the object is created or specified. And this is the output of a program. The definition of constructor has been defined outside. Now let's move towards the type of constructors. Constructor in C++ has been partitioned into 3 parts. It's default, parameterized, and copy constructor. Default. Here is the syntax of default. Class name. The name of class should coincide with the constructor name. Parameterized, class name with some arguments. Here copy constructor, class name, arguments are class name, address, and object name. Let's start with the default constructor. Default constructor, that we already discussed the constructors that are default constructor in example 1, 2, 3 type. The constructors we don't have any argument are called default constructor. They are invoked automatically. The example 1, 2, 3 that we specified are types of default constructors. Now move to the parameterized constructors. Any constructor that accepts parameter is called parameterized constructor. The main purpose of this parameterized constructor is to initialize the objects with different value whenever they are created. These things will be clear in the following example. Now moving to syntax, to the syntax of parameterized constructor. Here we simply specify class keyword with the name of class. Here we declare class name, that is simply a constructor with arguments. There can be a n number of arguments, argument 1, argument 2, argument 3. We only here declare. The definition is given outside the class. Class name, scope resolution operator, class name, argument 1, argument 2, argument 3. Let's make it clear with the help of example. Suppose that we have a class named bike, and access specifier is here public, and we will declare brand. We will declare a string type brand, model, integer type year of making. These are three properties that we can define for a bike. Then we here declare a bike constructor, a constructor named with bike with three arguments, string A, string B and string 3. Here we only declare, we don't define it. We will define it outside the class. Bike is simply name of class, scope resolution operator, and constructor name bike with arguments string A, string B and string 3. Here we give the definition. Brand, the contents of A will be copied in the brand, the contents of B will be copied in the model, and the contents of C will be copied in the year of make. Then we call main function bike object, and we pass here Royal Enfield, Thunderbird and 2019. These things will be copied to string A. String A will be have Royal Enfield, string B will have Thunderbird, and int C will have 2019. This type of calling is called implicit call. There is a difference, another type. There are two methods to call it, using implicit call or using explicit call. This type of calling is called implicit call. The second type is explicit call. Here we have to specify or we have to use equal to sign. The bike here, there's a difference. Bike obj equal to bike name of constructor. Then we the Harley will be copied to string A, street 500 will be copied to model B, that's a model, and year of make to 2020. There is a difference between implicit and explicit call. This is the implicit call, and this then the output will be obj.brand, obj.model, obj1. These are two objects, obj1 and obj2. The output will be like this. The code is like this. Here we specify the class with bike, access specifier public. Then we define string brand of type string, model of type string, and year of make of type integer. And here we declare bike, constructor bike of passing three arguments of type, declaring them string type, string, two arguments of string and one of integer type. Then we specify or we give the definition of a constructor outside the class, that is bike, class name, scope resolution operator, and constructors with the arguments, three arguments, string and integer. The main the execution starts from the main. From here, when we specify the object, that is using implicit call bike obj1, this Royal Enfield will be copied to here string A, this part, and this will be copied in A into brand, and this part Thunderbird will be copied to string B. This will be copied in model, and 2019 will be copied in C, and here we copy the contents of C, year of make. This is a implicit call. Then we'll create a second object and make a explicit call. Here we specify the class bike of an object of type bike. Then here with equal sign constructor Harley, the contents of Harley will be copied in the string A. The contents of A will be copied in the brand. Street 500 will be copied in string B, that will be copied in model, and 2020 will be copied in integer C of variable of types integer C, that will be copied in year of make. Then here is the output, that will outputs object.brand, that is object.model, object. year of object 1, that is Royal Enfield Thunderbird 2019. Then we will output object 2.brand, object 2.model, object 2.year, that is Harley Street 500 2020. Year of making is 2020. Here is the output. This specifies the brand Royal Enfield, this specifies the model, and this specifies the year. Here are the graphical view of two objects of class bike. There are two objects with obj1 and obj2. Each has its own variables, brand, model, year of make, and obj has brand, model, year of make. We are simply, when we simplify or we say obj1 dot brand, then we are specifying this type of object or this particular object. When we specify obj2 dot brand, we are specifying this object, or we'll say obj dot brand, the output will be Harley Street. If we'll specify obj1 year of make, the output will be 2019. Here if you will specify obj2 dot year of make, the output will be 2020. Then we have another type of constructor, that is called copy constructor. It's the same constructor like parameterized constructor, but here we initialize the object with object of a same class. That is used to initialize the object by another object of the same class. Syntax is here: class, class name, name of the class. Then we specify the access specifiers, class name, at here it is copy constructor, and that will call class name ampersand address of object, all objects that is to be passed. And then we are defining its definition outside the class: class name, scope resolution operator, copy constructor, class name, address of old object that is to be passed. Here it will be here clear from the example 5 at hash include iostream.h using namespace. Here we are specifying the name class name as number. Public access specifiers int x y, we are specifying the two integer variables, and here we are declaring a parameterized constructor with name number int with two arguments x1 and y1. Here we are declaring the copy constructor. You see here is a difference, that we are passing the object 2, that is to this constructor. Here we are giving the definition of parameterized constructor, that is we are specifying the name of class, scope resolution operator, constructor. This is a normal parameterized constructor, int x1, int y1. We are specifying their number x equal to x1, y equal to y1. We are giving their definition. Here we are giving the definition of copy constructor, that is number, that's the name of class, scope resolution operator. Then we are giving the definition of a copy constructor. Here we see the class name, address obj2, that's the address of object 2, obj2, x is equal to obj2 dot x. Here we are using the dot operator, okay, x equal to obj2 dot x, y equal to obj2 dot y. Then here we are calling the normal constructor is called here, that then number obj1, we are passing 111 and 333. And here we are using the copy constructor. Now both of these objects will point to the same object, that is obj1 and obj2 are pointing to the same contents, or we can say the contents of obj1 are copied into the obj2. So both the contents of the both objects will be same. Now we will access their values. When accessing the values, the output of x, the output will be the output of x in object obj1 is obj1 dot x. The value of y of obj1 is obj1 dot y. Similarly, the value of x in obj2 is obj dot x, and the value of x in obj2 is obj2 dot y. Here it's a code portion. Here we are declaring it the normal parameterized constructor. Here we are declaring the copy constructor. We are passing the objects to it, number, that's class type object, address of an object. Here we are giving the definition of a normal constructor, and here we are giving the definition of a copy constructor. Now we are calling the normal constructor. Here we are calling the copy constructor. The contents of obj1 will be copied into the obj2. The execution will start from here. 111 will be copied into the x, 333 will be copied into y. Then the contents of obj1 will be copied into obj2. Here we are passing it to the obj, we are passing the address of obj2, and x will be equal to same. Then we are accessing their respective values x and y. Here is a output. Value of x is 111 and the value of y of obj1 is 313. The value of x in obj2 is 111. The value of obj is 300. Thank you. These are the sources that we have consulted during our sessions. Thank you.